The history of global strategic endeavor is often presented as a triumphant march of progress, a relentless trajectory toward established goals.
Yet, in the periphery of this documented ascent, there exists a vast necropolis of projects, colossal missions that absorbed billions in resource investment, harnessed the apex of human technological expertise, and then, without warning or actionable technical failure, were simply erased. These are the ghosts of strategy, monumental investments in technology and human capital suddenly rendered inert by an opaque administrative decree, leaving behind only whispering silence and highly classified paperwork. This document explores 5 such instances, colossal missions abandoned mid-execution, unified by the baffling quality of their termination, the instantaneous, unexplained surrender of objective.
Our focus begins deep beneath the ocean's surface with a deep-sea venture codenamed Triton's Reach.
Initiated with the stated purpose of understanding planetary geothermal processes and assessing the viability of deep-sea resource extraction, the project utilized advanced pressurized hull technology to probe the crushing abyss. The primary site of investigation was located near an unexplored geological rift, a region of intense tectonic activity characterized by hydrothermal vents and unusual chemosynthetic ecosystems. The deployment phase spanned nearly 30 months, culminating in the establishment of Argos 7, an automated subterranean research base tethered precariously to the lip of the abyssal chasm. The environment of Triton's Reach was one of absolute, relentless pressure, a darkness so profound it absorbed all but the most intense artificial light. Argos 7 operated in a state of perpetually monitored resilience. Its titanium alloy hull, 3 meters thick in places, groaned faintly under the weight of 7 kilometers of water column, a constant, low-frequency sound audible only to internal hydrophones and seismic sensors. Inside the habitat modules, bioluminescent lit corridors provided the only warmth and color against the ubiquitous cold sterility of the deep. Automated manipulators, guided by fiber optic cables of extraordinary tensile strength, were plumbing the rift zone, acquiring geological core samples that promised unprecedented insight into mantle composition. Data acquisition was proceeding precisely according to schedule. The preliminary seismic models were suggesting anomalies that excited the geoscience community, signatures that indicated non-standard metallic densities far beneath the crust. Then, at 0311 Zulu time on a Tuesday morning, the entire operational tempo ceased. The command came not via a system alert or a maintenance failure report, but as a brief, unformatted digital memo issued directly from the highest echelons of the Oversight Commission. Immediate and complete retrieval of all manned and unmanned surface assets. Mission profile terminated. There was no preliminary winding down, no preparation for decommissioning, and crucially, no technical explanation attached to the order. Retrieval vessels operating on the surface, specialized ships equipped with dynamic positioning systems to remain static over the deployment point, were instantly recalled. The atmosphere on the decks shifted from intense operational focus to stunned confusion. Equipment, winches still taut with cable, brine-soaked data processing units, stacks of unused hydroacoustic beacons, was secured hastily. Covered by coarse canvas sheeting, and left exactly where it stood. The decks retained the pungent, metallic scent of deep-sea brine, now mingling with the cold, damp air of the abandonment. The crucial consequence of this instant recall was the fate of Argos 7 itself. The subterranean base, designed for decades of autonomous operation, was simply left where it rested, 7 kilometers down. Its elaborate suite of expensive sensors remains operational, endlessly monitoring the silent deep. The bioluminescent internal lighting system still cycles through its programmed routines, illuminating empty laboratories and unmanned control stations. Below, near the rift, The automated core drills continue their slow, methodical penetration into the seabed, sending back streams of high-definition geological telemetry into a data buffer that is now full, perpetually overriding the oldest readings. A constant digital whisper into a receiver that has been detached and shelved in a climate-controlled warehouse thousands of miles away. The silence of Triton's reach is not a mechanical silence, but an administrative one, a testament to technological capability rendered irrelevant by an unseen executive decision. The contrast in environment and purpose could not be starker when considering the second project, the abrupt halt of Operation Highwatch. Located high atop a desolate, sun-baked plateau known regionally only as the Shard, this installation was conceived as a vital high-altitude surveillance array designed to monitor specific atmospheric and orbital phenomena across a vast expanse of contiguous airspace. The location was chosen for its near-perfect atmospheric clarity and its extreme isolation, presenting immense logistical challenges that were nonetheless overcome through years of grueling construction. The Shard Plateau is characterized by relentless, scouring wind and intense, unforgiving sunlight. The air is thin, dry, and carries the fine, abrasive dust of pulverized granite. The facility itself consisted of a series of reinforced concrete bunkers engineered to withstand the most severe thermal cycling and seismic activity. Leading up to the termination, Operation Highwatch was in full high-intensity function, with teams of specialized personnel rotating through the isolated site, perpetually analyzing torrents of telemetry data collected. From the enormous dish arrays that studded the landscape like metallic blossoms. Walking through the facility now, months after the unexplained cessation, is to experience a disturbing kind of forensic ghost town. The howling wind is the dominant audible feature, whistling through the empty antenna dishes and generating low, resonant hums within the ventilation shafts. Inside the bunkers, the atmosphere is cool, dry, and permeated by the faint, almost metallic odor of ozone mixed with high-grade synthetic cooling fluid. The true puzzle lies within the central command center, designated Node Theta. This room remains meticulously preserved, not by design, but by the speed of the departure. Consoles still glow faintly, the screens displaying dense matrices of telemetry that were current at the precise moment of abandonment. Chairs are pushed back from monitors, suggesting a departure so immediate that there was no time for standard decommissioning protocols. On one desk, a half-filled mug of lukewarm, now stale coffee sits beside a stack of printouts curled at the edges by the dry air. A keyboard still bears the fine layer of desert grit typical of the site, but the keys retain the faint impression of recent, rapid use. Every minute detail emphasizes the instantaneous nature of the surrender. Logbooks are open, displaying the final, handwritten entry describing routine atmospheric normalization, a mundane observation interrupted mid-sentence. Security protocols required the systematic wiping of all local memory banks prior to evacuation, a process estimated to take 4 hours. That process was never initiated. Critical data remains resident on hard drives, locked behind multiple layers of encryption. A silent, static testament to the classified information that the personnel were forced to walk away from without a single backward glance. The personnel roster vanished, redistributed to non-operational postings across the globe, explicitly forbidden from discussing the Shard or the circumstances of the evacuation. The official explanation, disseminated in a single cryptic internal memorandum, cited unforeseen strategic pivot requirement. But the physical evidence, the still-powered equipment, the instant zeroing of the budget, the total lack of salvage efforts for millions of dollars of sophisticated high-altitude sensors, speaks to a forced surrender dictated by a threat or revelation so compelling that the maintenance of the mission's secrecy outweighed the value of the mission itself. The concrete bunkers of Highwatch now stand as cold, silent monuments against the intense blue of the desert sky, the wind perpetually erasing the faint footprints of those who fled. The mystery shifts from external surveillance to internal scientific endeavor with the baffling termination of Project Kronos. This was not a military or resource mission, but a colossal, globally collaborative undertaking dedicated to exotic particle physics, aiming to test fundamental theories of matter and existence through the construction of an unparalleled subterranean accelerator ring. The facility was situated miles beneath a vast, geologically stable plain, minimizing environmental interference and radiation risk. Project Kronos represented the zenith of contemporary engineering and pure scientific ambition. The facility was labyrinthine, consisting of hundreds of kilometers of shielded tunnels carved through ancient bedrock. The central feature was the main collision chamber, a gargantuan space where superconducting magnets, cooled to near absolute zero, were preparing to guide particle beams at speeds approaching the theoretical limit. The entire environment was engineered for absolute precision. Filtered air, constant temperature and humidity control, and infrastructure designed to minimize even microscopic vibration. The sensory details of Kronos are dominated by scale and sterility. The air in the tunnels is cool and conditioned, carrying the faint, clean scent of filtered oxygen and synthetic oils. The walls of the primary ring are lined with immaculate white ceramic shielding, interspersed with massive, complex arrays of copper wiring and reflective metallic casings. Everything suggests expense, precision, and dedication. The project was weeks, perhaps days, away from entering its critical experimental phase. The final installation of the complex detector arrays was complete, and test pulses of preliminary beam were already running through short sections of the ring. This phase, described in internal papers as the aperture event, was expected to generate data that could fundamentally redefine human understanding of the universe's earliest moments. Then, just as the global scientific community held its collective breath, the operation was instantly terminated. The funding was zeroed out overnight. All access badges, which were previously necessary to navigate the dozens of security checkpoints leading down to the facility, were remotely deactivated. The directive was clinical. Project Kronos is to enter indefinite holding status, effective immediately. All personnel are to report for reassignment within 48 hours. No data archiving or cleanup procedures are authorized. The result is a physics laboratory, frozen in the posture of imminent discovery. The control rooms remain brightly lit, the massive main screens displaying complex energy flow diagrams that were operational just moments before the halt. In the maintenance bays, specialized high-vacuum equipment stands mid-cycle. One technician's diagnostic tablet lies face-up on a stainless steel workbench, its screen displaying a calibration sequence 94% complete. Tool benches are perfectly organized, surgical-grade instruments resting neatly in their molded foam cutouts, awaiting a use that will never come. The silence of Project Kronos is profound. It is not the silence of abandonment, but the silence of forced hibernation. The huge superconducting magnets, once consuming megawatts of power, are now inert. Their cryogenic cooling systems shut down, allowing the multi-ton coils to slowly warm to ambient temperature. The vast spaces are permeated by the residual scent of ozone, the ghost of immense electrical power that was suddenly cut. The facility is a sterile, brightly lit monument to unparalleled scientific endeavor, instantly put on ice, perhaps forever. The mystery surrounding Kronos is particularly acute because there was no precursor, no budgetary crisis, no safety infraction, and most importantly, no scientific failure. The consensus among the lead researchers, before they were scattered, was that the project was on the cusp of an extraordinary breakthrough. The only credible internal speculation suggests that the preliminary data generated during low-power testing indicated not just a breakthrough, but potentially an unacceptable risk, a finding deemed too volatile or too destabilizing for the current geopolitical environment, warranting the immediate total suppression of the entire project, even at the cost of the invested trillions. The unexplained termination next extends skyward, focusing on the unexplained grounding of Orbital Relay Beta. This state-of-the-art satellite deployment was intended to revolutionize global communications by establishing a specialized, high-bandwidth relay network specifically dedicated to rapid data transmission across the remote Northern Hemisphere.
It was a strategic asset designed for unparalleled security and redundancy.
The preparation phase took place within the immense, cavernous confines of the Alpha Assembly Hangar, a structure so vast it possessed its own microclimate controls. This hangar was engineered to house the final integration of the satellite vehicle and its heavy-lift launch system, protecting the sensitive instruments from environmental contamination right up until the moment of transport to the launch pad. The sensory details of the hangar are dominated by scale and manufactured stillness. The air is cool, dry, and smells faintly of industrial sealant and hydraulic oil. Above, powerful floodlights bathe the entire space in a stark, cold white light, emphasizing the enormous volume of the enclosure. The polished concrete floor reflects this light, making the massive machinery appear suspended in a shimmering void. At the center of the hangar rests the centerpiece of the abandoned mission, the Orbital Relay Beta satellite itself. It is a silver sentinel encased in intricate, specialized scaffolding, standing nearly 4 stories tall atop its dedicated integration platform. Its solar arrays, still folded and secured, gleam dully. Every component, the primary communication dishes, the reaction wheels, the finely tuned thruster nozzles, is protected by pristine, custom-fitted thermal and anti-static sheeting. The vehicle was fully prepared. The final telemetry checks were complete. The cryogenic fuels were ready to be loaded, and the launch window countdown had been officially initiated and approved. The launch was less than 72 hours away when the order came down. Unlike the slow fade of other projects, the cancellation of Orbital Relay Beta was a physical cessation of forward momentum. The official directive was abrupt. Hold all movement. Destack launch vehicle components immediately. Mission status: indefinitely suspended. The team responsible for the final integration, a highly specialized cohort of engineers and physicists, was stunned. They had worked non-stop shifts, achieving near-perfect assembly tolerances, overcoming countless minor technical hurdles. Now they were instructed to halt. The sophisticated vehicle sits frozen in time, waiting for a launch signal that was abruptly canceled without technical justification or engineering failure cited. The satellite, ready to be wrapped and moved to the pad, remains immobile, tethered to its integration bay by umbilical cables that lead to systems now powered down. In the adjacent observation deck, a multi-pane window overlooks the frozen scene. This room, once buzzing with intense communication and focused urgency, is empty. A row of specialized headsets hangs neatly on a charging rack, still configured for the rapid-fire conversations of the launch sequence controllers. The silence is palpable, a vacuum where the adrenaline and cacophony of an impending launch should have been. Orbital Relay Beta represents a specific type of strategic abandonment. The assets are not physically remote or difficult to retrieve, but they are too valuable to destroy and too sensitive to repurpose hastily. The official reports suggested a shifting strategic priority, but the true cost of pausing a launch vehicle, the decay of complex systems, the necessary recertification of thousands of components, the sheer logistical nightmare of standing down a global support network, far outweighs any temporary fiscal saving. The suspension of this mission suggests an intelligence event, A sudden and critical realization that the deployment of this specific communication asset at this specific time carried a risk that the oversight body was unwilling to bear. Finally, we turn to the cessation of the Archives Retrieval Initiative, a mission distinct from the others in its objective, the recovery of historical truth rather than the pursuit of future technology. This initiative was a crucial, highly sensitive operation dedicated to retrieving brittle, waterlogged historical documents detailing sensitive past infrastructure failures, environmental crises, and historical errors in judgment that had been deliberately obscured. The documents were housed in a deep subterranean vault, constructed nearly a century ago, situated in a region prone to geological subsidence and high water tables. Decades of neglect and environmental creep had rendered the vault compromised, creating a hazardous environment where crucial records were slowly dissolving into an illegible slurry of paper fibers and mold. The mission site was oppressive and claustrophobic. Access required navigating a complex array of shoring beams and pumps designed to hold back the earth and the seeping groundwater. The air inside the retrieval zones was thick, heavy, and perpetually cold, permeated by the musty scent of decay, mold, and industrial dehumidifiers working overtime. Specialized retrieval teams, dressed in full protective suits, worked in shifts, using fine tools and chemical preservatives to stabilize and catalog the fragile documents. The goal was to recover the red files, a cache of documents rumored to contain the unfiltered operational histories detailing failures in early mass transit systems, catastrophic dam failures, and strategic planning errors that were subsequently scrubbed from public record and even erased from most internal histories. These files held objective truth, often detailing the human cost of administrative miscalculations. The operation was nearing its target cache of the most volatile files. The retrieval teams had meticulously stabilized and extracted thousands of documents, working through layers of water-damaged cardboard and rotten wood shelving. They were approximately 72 hours away from breaching the final reinforced storage zone where the red files were believed to be located. The environment of the immediate abandonment scene emphasizes the suddenness of the directive. Temporary clean tents, erected for the preliminary processing of damp paper, still stand. Inside, specialized tools, tweezers, fine brushes, chemical spraying apparatus lie exactly where they were put down. Rolls of archival-quality plastic sheeting, meant for wrapping and transportation, are half unfurled. The air pump supplying clean, filtered air to the retrieval zone still rattles softly, pulling moisture from the heavy atmosphere. The termination was immediate and severe. The entire site was sealed, and the retrieval team, along with their supervisory command staff, was instantly disbanded and made subject to stringent non-disclosure agreements concerning the nature and location of the red files. Heavy-duty steel blast doors, previously installed for security purposes, were welded shut, the fresh, bright welds visible against the damp, gray concrete. The cessation of the Archives Retrieval Initiative forces the objective truth back into the shadows of classified history, denying the very purpose for which the immense effort and risk were undertaken. The specific, unseen threat in this case was not a technological failure or an external geopolitical enemy, but the risk posed by the objective truth itself. The files, detailing critical past infrastructure failures, were presumably deemed too destabilizing, perhaps revealing vulnerabilities or culpabilities that had been actively concealed for decades. The instantaneous sealing suggests that the Oversight Commission realized too late the true volatility of what they were about to recover, making the resource-intensive surrender the only acceptable course of action to maintain a fragile status quo. These 5 abandoned missions, Triton's Reach, Operation Highwatch, Project Kronos, Orbital Relay Beta, and the Archives Retrieval Initiative, form a disturbing mosaic of executive apprehension.
They represent a collective investment of human ingenuity and economic power on a truly global scale. All halted not by the immutable laws of physics or engineering failure, but by the whim of an unseen administrative fear.
The tactile evidence left behind in each location speaks louder than any official memorandum.
The cold, running sensors of Argo 7 pinging into the crushing abyss.
The wind-scoured half-lit consoles of Node Theta on the Shard Plateau.
The sterile, ozone-scented silence of the subterranean Project Kronos. The massive silver sentinel of Orbital Relay Beta frozen under the stark light of the hangar. And the newly welded blast doors sealing the volatile history within the damp confines of the archive site. The enduring legacy of these projects is the question they collectively raise. What specific unseen force or sudden undeniable threat justified such an immediate, comprehensive, and resource-intensive surrender? The fact that the official explanations remain vague, citing strategic pivots or indefinite suspensions, underscores the depth of the classified fear surrounding each project. In every case, the value of the highly specialized equipment and the objective mission goal was suddenly deemed subordinate to the imperative of silence, transforming active strategic assets into cold, costly monuments to classified surrender. These facilities now stand as tangible proof that sometimes, in the hidden corridors of global power, the greatest danger is not the failure to achieve an objective, but the potential consequences of success.